Stephen Smith is a man of God, a conservative advocate, a father, and a husband. And now he wants to be the next representative for South Carolina House District 15. I speak exclusively with Stephen for a special edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores.
Stephen Smith, it's so good to meet you.
It's nice to meet you, Quintin.
I appreciate this greatly.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. Well, I went back to your Facebook page just recently, and one of your profile pictures actually said this: Stephen Smith, conservative advocate, Christian, and clergyman.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what's so attractive about Columbia and why you want to run?
Well, I'm running because Columbia has made decisions. When I say Columbia, I mean our legislature. They've made decisions that have negatively impacted working families, taxpayers. I'll give you a good example of that, and that they generally don't do what we want them to do. Americans for Prosperity poll showed that 71% of South Carolinians were against the gas tax. Now, I was under the impression that when we elect people to go to the legislature, they carry out the will of the people, but they didn't do that. 71% of the public was against it. They passed it anyway. Most people were against it because they knew that the DOT did not have a revenue problem. The DOT has a governance problem. And instead of reforming the DOT, making it more accountable and more efficient, they just did the Columbia thing, and that's throw more money at it, to the tune of about $600 million more dollars per year. That comes out of the pockets of working fathers like myself, college students, low income, and elderly people.
You talk about reforming the DOT. How?
The biggest thing we have to do is we have to get rid of the DOT commission. It's a panel of people who are appointed by the legislature.
Right.
So they are beholden to the powers who put them in place. That's why when a powerful senator from Florence County picks up the phone and says, need a $300 million highway expansion in Florence County, there's no opposition to it. But if you walk through Berkeley County, certain parts of Charleston County, Sedgefield, Hanahan, you will find roads, state-owned roads, that are riddled with potholes. And a lot of people on social media say, "Oh, that's just the impact of the snow." No, these roads were bad before the snow. They were bad before the 1,000-year flood. They've been bad for years. I've lived in Sedgefield for 6 years,
Right.
and we have had roads crumbling for 6 years. Now imagine if that $300 million went into repairing our existing roads instead of building new ones or expanding roads that really don't need it.
I hate to be asked a stupid question, but where is the money?
I don't know. That's a good question. Some say that the new revenues are, when they passed the gas tax increase, they changed tax to user fee. And that was done by some commentators. They did that so that they can pour more money into the State Infrastructure Bank.
What is the future of the State Infrastructure Transportation Bank in your mind?
I'd like to see it abolished, or at least heavily reformed. I lean more towards abolishing the SIB because it's used almost like a slush fund for powerful lawmakers, and that's not at our expense, and that's not right.
Let me turn back to June 8th. And let me walk you down memory lane.
Okay.
You posted this on your Facebook page. You said this quote: "Let's pass the Compassionate Care Act, reform the South Carolina DOT, and repeal the hashtag gas tax hike. The choice is clear. Let's drain the swamp in Columbia." What's inside that swamp now?
Well, that swamp is full of swamp creatures. And when I say swamp creatures, I mean politicians who have compromised their moral integrity, and they're making a lot of money off of state contracts at our expense. To me, that's corruption, and it should end. And it's important to send people to Columbia who are morally upright and who are principled. Here's the thing about principles. Okay. If you convince me, let's say we had to paint this room, and you said, "Stephen, I think we should paint it red." I said, "No, Quintin, I think we should paint it white." Now those are opinions.
Right.
And you might change my opinion, or you might get me to go against my opinion. I said, "Okay, let's go ahead and paint the room red." I won't wake up in the middle of the night and say, oh, should have painted that room white. That won't keep me up at night. It won't stop me from sleeping. But what will stop me from sleeping is when you've done something that you know to be morally evil or wrong. That should keep you up at night. And looking at Columbia, I don't see a whole lot of red eyes in Columbia. Nobody's missing a whole lot of sleep. So it's important that we change the people who are representing us. Not everybody in Columbia is bad. I mean, you've got Jonathan Hill from Anderson County. He's a very, very good defender of the taxpayer. You've got Tom Davis from Beaufort County, one of my favorite senators, the most, in my opinion, the most conservative member in the South Carolina Senate. As a matter of fact, here's another example.
Okay.
When Tom Davis was filibustering the gas tax,
Right.
Republicans found the vote to sit him down and end his filibuster. But when Marlon Kimpson, senator from Charleston County, was filibustering an abortion bill to stop it, the Republicans couldn't find the votes to sit him down. That tells me that somewhere someone's morality has been compromised, because if you can't defend life in South Carolina, in the reddest state in the union, then something is terribly wrong.
And let me get back. I got two things to ask.
Mhm.
Let me get back to you talk about reform.
Mhm.
Obviously, and you talk about corruption. Obviously, there's a big talk right now about ethics. What should the ethics reform look like in your mind now?
Ethics reform should look like, as a taxpayer, as a voter, and as a citizen, the people should be able to see every penny and know where that penny comes from with our elected officials. There should be complete transparency. A lot of lawmakers have consulting firms, and these firms are designed to collect money from special interests and lobbyists because they've been contracted as a consultant. Oh, and let's be honest, what are they actually being paid to do? They're being paid to push bills and to lobby their own chamber. And that's actually illegal. But there's a lot of illegal things that happen in Columbia, and nobody's ever held accountable for it. So we have to have a radical change in our ethics laws. And I think that requires complete and utter disclosure of all sources of income and where they come from.
And let me get back to the other one that I was thinking about, Compassionate Care Act.
Mhm.
What's the one word to describe that right now?
To describe the actual bill itself,
Yes, sir.
I think compassion is a very good term for it. You know, doctors, lawmakers should not be in charge of telling doctors how they should treat their patients. And if there are some medical benefits to help people who have pain or other medical issues, then we need to put those options on the table. Now, I have seen on the other side where you have people who they miscategorize the bill. They say, oh, you're just trying to legalize the smoking of marijuana in South Carolina, and that's not what the bill does. But it's compassion. I've met people across the Low Country who talk to me about the benefits of medical cannabis, especially in the areas of anesthetizing pain.
Right.
And I think it should be important that doctors have that option and that patients have that option in South Carolina.
And you talk about meeting people from around the Low Country. When you talk to people about what's going on in your district, what are they telling you? What are they concerned about?
Oh, the main concern is roads, because we drive these roads every day, and people are busting tires, they're damaging our rims. I can take you to some roads, some state-owned roads in Berkeley County where the pavement is literally crumbling. You can pick it up in your hands, and these are state-owned roads. My biggest question is this: why does the state own residential roads? Why? Those roads should be turned over to municipalities and to county governments with the funding dollars attached to them for their maintenance. Because the state has shown us clearly they are unable to manage over 40,000 miles of state-owned roads. So we have, when I talk about reform, that's one of the cogs in that wheel of reform, that we have to give these roads to local governments. And while we talk about local government, we also have to fully fund local government fund, because since 2008, the legislature has failed to live up to that statutory clause. They're just not doing it. When we fail to fully fund local government fund to pay for mandates that are handed down by the state, well, local governments have to do it because they just don't have money out there growing on trees. They have to raise taxes and raise fees to meet the shortfall in the revenue. And so that's double taxing the taxpayers, and that's counterproductive to a healthy economy.
And let me go back to you. You posted this on June 2nd, quote, "I'm proud to receive the endorsement from the Low Country source. We are in desperate need of reform in state government. Hashtag stand with Stephen. Hashtag taxpayers first." What else should we know about you? Why should I vote for you if I live in Berkeley County?
Because I am one of the everyday people. I'm not a part of the ruling political establishment that wants to keep the status quo. I'm a taxpayer, I'm a father, I'm a husband. I have 4 beautiful children. The Lord has blessed me with a wonderful wife. My wife the Lord has blessed us where my wife is a stay-at-home mom. And so sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it feels like a curse at times, but because when you have 4, well 6 mouths to feed, it can be difficult.
Sure.
And when we see actions being taken in Columbia, it's as though the working people in this state, we don't have a voice. We don't have an advocate. There are tons of lobbyists and special interest groups who converge on Columbia every day that the legislature is in session.
Right.
But none of those lobbyists or special interests represent the working man. And I think that I will be a strong advocate for the working class and the taxpayers of this state, pushing for reforms, pushing for reducing taxes. That's the biggest thing, reducing taxes. When I say reducing taxes,
Okay.
some people will tell you, oh, we cut taxes. I didn't see it on my paycheck. Here's what I'd like to see tax reform look like.
Okay.
You abolish the income tax and you replace it with a fair tax. This way, because when I go to work every day, the state government did not get in the car and ride with me to work. If they did, then they'd certainly do something about the roads that I have to drive on. But they didn't ride with me. They weren't there when I clocked in. They weren't there when I spent 8 or 9 hours, sometimes 10 hours, at my desk working. They didn't help me earn that money. But they get their cut before I get mine. So we have to reform our tax code. Florida has a fair tax, and there's the main reason why people flock to Florida is because of their tax policy. That's one of the main reasons people flock to Texas, is because of their tax policy. People want to live someplace where they can keep their own hard-earned money. And right now we live in a system where you have people who are earning money under the table, working odd jobs under the table, some people doing illegal activity to earn a living, and they're not paying any taxes. So if you have the fair tax, a tax, it's fair because everybody pays it. And you can abolish the revenue board, because we won't need them anymore. The tax is now collected at the cash register. And people would have higher take-home pay, which will stimulate the economy.
What is that one issue you'll do on day one?
The one issue on day one, gosh, there's a lot of them.
Okay.
But from day one, I will be a strong voice against the tax and spend policies of Columbia. Some people say that politics it's a give and take sort of thing. Well, the taxpayers have already given enough. They've already given enough. And now we need results. So we have to take results. We've already compromised enough. We've given them enough. Now we're giving an additional $600 million a year in gas taxes alone. That doesn't count the increased fees at the DMV. That doesn't count the increased fees for vehicle taxes. So we've given enough. It's time for Columbia to give something back, and that means meaningful reform.
$600 million. And you talked about all those other increases as well. How much would taxpayers be paying in the next 20 years?
Well, if we continue going down the road that we're on right now, we'd just be paying more. And because we're not addressing the root cause of the problem. State government is in dire need of reform. We're working with the Constitution that was passed that was put together in the late 1800s.
Okay.
And this was the result of, because at the end of chattel slavery in the United States, in many states in the South, former African slaves were the majority. And so the Constitution in the state was changed because they feared that a black person could become governor. So they stripped the governor of a lot of executive power and placed it into the hands of the legislature, which there's the old saying that absolute power corrupts absolutely. So, now we fast forward to 2018, we need to update our Constitution. We need to give power back to the executive branch because that is that's the most important office as far as holding someone accountable. If we make the governor responsible for, let's say, infrastructure for our roads, and not a board of unelected bureaucrats. Now, in Berkeley County, I can't hold Hugh Leatherman accountable. I can't hold Jay Lucas accountable because I don't live in their districts. I can hold Samuel Rivers Jr. accountable, and I can hold the governor accountable. I can hold Paul Campbell accountable. But we need someone that we can hold accountable for our roads, and that would be the governor.
Stephen Smith, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad to finally meet you. I've seen your videos.
A lot of interviews.
A few years, yes.
Thanks be to God.
Yes, oh yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.